Hello Cisco One, it's Chris here. I'm going to give an overview of IPv6, just recap some of what we've done, maybe show you some different ways to look at things. Got a very simple setup here: left router, right router and a PC. As you should know, you have to input when playing around with v6 is to turn it on globally, and that's with the IPv6 unicast routing. We'll do that on both routers to make sure we don't forget it. Okay. And there we have it. Okay. What I'm going to do is turn on some debugging, and that will show us some information about how v6 starts up and starts advertising capabilities that will be used in a little while for auto configuration. So what I'm going to do is do debug IPv6 neighbor discovery. I'm going to do that on both sides here. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is look to see how my network's connected. I see gig01 is on both the left and the right hand router. So on the left hand router I'm going to put an IPv6 address. Let's just make it simple. Okay, nothing difficult there. Now, it would be very easy for me to configure the other side in a similar fashion, say 2001::2/64, and we'll be able to ping. However, let's do something a little bit different. IPv6 address autoconfig. Will it help getting into the correct interface? And now we see we have some information. What has happened is this router on the right hand side has sent a request. It's a router solicitation request, and he's received router advertisement, and you can see that the prefix here has been advertised as 2001 as I've in /64 as I've configured on the address of the interface. So if I now do show IPv6 interface brief, we will see that on the right hand router I now have an address on the 001 interface on the 2001/64 prefix. Now, if I look at this value here, this tells me that this has been an automatically generated host address. The thing that gives it away is this FFFE value. That tells me it's in EUI format, and that's what happens when you turn on auto configuration. It's also done at link local level to assign a link local address automatically. What happens at the router level of the interface is to generate this host value here, MAC address, splits the MAC address in half, then adds FFFE in the middle, and flips a bit over here. So if I go over here and do a do show IPv6 neighbor, this is telling me that my address of my neighbor is 0030 F2AC A302. So that should look very familiar to what we see up here. The address here is the MAC address of the neighbor, the MAC address of the right-hand router gigabit 01 interface. In fact, it does look remarkably similar, except that there's a 2 in there instead of a 0. Basically what happens is one bit is flipped, and that generates a 2 in this case from the value 0. It's the 7th bit in that octet that gets flipped. And then you have FFFE in the middle, and you see that AC A302, AC A302 matches. So yes, auto configuration works. It gives us a prefix from a neighbor and we automatically generate an address from it, but it's kind of clunky to use in any way really. So what we might want to do is give it a hard-coded address just to make life simpler. So I'm going to say no IPv6 address auto. Now I'll give it an address IPv6 address 2001:2/64, and I'd also like to make the link local address a bit easier to remember as well. So what I'm going to do there is do IPv6 address FE80 FE80::2 link well, if we misspell address we'll have problems. Link local, and there we have it. So if I do a show IPv6 interface brief, I've now got a much simpler set of addresses to work with. Do this on the left hand router, and yeah, let's make that easier as well. And let's see, I'm going to do IPv6 address FE80::1 link. Now you notice when you define the link local address, there's no /64 like you do for the regular global unicast. And let's just have a look at why that's the case. We see that it's a /128 as a link local. Okay, now skip that. Let's move on. We can discuss this further in class. Okay, so we've assigned IPv6 addresses, we've assigned link local addresses, we've seen auto configuration work. Now let's go into the right hand router, introduce a loopback, give it an IPv6 adder 2004::1/64 just for argument's sake. And let's see now. I'm going to put a static route on my left hand router. So let's have a look at how that's constructed. IPv6 route, and this is what I expect. The prefix, now the prefix for the default is maybe not intuitive, but it's ::/0. And let me see, what address do I want to want to put it for? I want to put it for 2001::2. 2001::2. Now you can use a fully specified static route and specify the interface as well, but I have found that on Packet Tracer just specifying the interface will not work. But we're specifying the address here, so we should be able to work this. So let's see if I can ping. And a bit of an odd display, but I am able to ping successfully. So there we have a static route. And really this is all you need to know to get started with v6. Sometimes the addressing is confusing because it's long, but if you just change it to simple short addresses, it just looks the same as v4 in concept, and you can do exactly the same sorts of things with it. There's a couple of nuances, so when you're trying to assign an easy to remember link local address, you remember you don't need the prefix length, but you do need the link local keyword at the end of the address. And that's about it. So thanks very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.